Most people plan a trip to Peru backwards, and their own body is what punishes them for it. Here is how it usually goes. The entire trip gets built around Machu Picchu because Machu Picchu is the reason most people have heard of Peru at all. The flights get booked, the Citadel tickets get reserved, the itinerary gets compressed to fit the famous ruin into a tight window, fly into Lima, connect straight to Cusco, get to Machu Picchu as fast as possible. It looks efficient on paper. And then they land in Cusco, a city sitting at 3,400 meters above sea level, having been at sea level that same morning, and within hours the headache starts. Then the nausea. Then the breathlessness climbing a single flight of stairs. And they spend the first 2 days of an expensive, long-anticipated trip lying in a hotel room with altitude sickness, watching the schedule they built so carefully collapse. This is the thing that makes Peru genuinely different from almost every other destination on Earth. In most places, rushing just means you miss the depth. You skim the surface, you don't really understand where you've been, but you're fine. In Peru, rushing makes you physically ill. The country does not let you hurry toward the thing you came for. The altitude turns haste into a medical problem, not an aesthetic one, and the obsession with reaching one ruin as fast as possible is precisely what sabotages the journey to it. Peru forces you to slow down, or it makes you suffer. Almost nobody is told this clearly before they go, and it is the single most important thing to understand about the country. So let's start there, because getting this one thing right reshapes the entire trip. Altitude is not a minor inconvenience to be powered through, and treating it like one is the most consequential mistake in Peruvian travel. Cusco, the Sacred Valley, Lake Titicaca, much of the Andean heartland that draws visitors. All of it sits at elevations where the air holds dramatically less oxygen than your body is used to, and the adjustment is not something willpower can override. Altitude sickness doesn't care how fit you are. Marathon runners get flattened by it while sedentary people sometimes sail through. It is partly genetic, largely unpredictable, and entirely capable of ruining the first days of a trip or, in serious cases, becoming genuinely dangerous. The fix is not complicated, but it requires building the trip around it from the start rather than discovering it on arrival. The single best thing you can do is not go straight up. Cusco is higher than Machu Picchu. This surprises almost everyone, which means the common instinct to get the altitude over with by rushing to Cusco first is exactly wrong. A smarter route spends the first days in the Sacred Valley, which sits several hundred meters lower than Cusco, giving your body a gentler step up before you tackle the city itself. Better still, build in genuine acclimatization time. Arrive, do almost nothing for a day or two, hydrate relentlessly, avoid alcohol, eat light, and let your body catch up. The coca tea offered everywhere genuinely helps, as does simply moving slowly. The travelers who give the altitude 2 or 3 days of respect are the ones who then enjoy everything that follows. The ones who try to beat it are the ones who lose half their trip to a hotel bed. Which leads directly to the second mistake, the one that drives all the rushing in the first place. Treating Machu Picchu as the entire point of Peru. Machu Picchu is extraordinary. This is not in dispute, and nothing here is an argument against going. But the gravitational pull of that single site is so strong that it distorts how people experience the entire country, and the irony is that the things people skip in their rush to the Citadel are often the things that would have made the trip transcendent. The Sacred Valley, which most people blast through on the way to Machu Picchu, is itself one of the most rewarding regions in South America. The ruins at Pisac and Ollantaytambo, the agricultural terraces, the markets, the small towns operating at an Andean rhythm that has very little to do with tourism. Ollantaytambo, in particular, is a living Inca town, its streets and water channels still laid out on the original grid, and it deserves far more than the hour most itineraries grant it as a train station on the way to somewhere more famous. And then there is Machu Picchu itself, which most people also experience wrong, through the rush. They arrive on the midday train with the largest crowds, in the harshest light, having seen it in 10,000 photographs already, and they're slightly underwhelmed because they've given it no room to land. The Citadel rewards the early arrival, the first entry slot, the morning mist still burning off the peaks, the hour before the day trippers flood in. It rewards, in other words, exactly the unhurried approach that the altitude already demanded of you. The country keeps delivering the same lesson. Here's a mistake that's less about logistics and more about imagination, and it might be the one that costs people the most without their ever knowing it. Thinking Peru is a mountain country. Peru is three completely different countries stacked on top of each other, and the Andes are only one of them. There is the coast, a long ribbon of desert running the entire length of the country, where Lima sits, where the food culture reaches its highest expression, where the Nazca lines are etched into the desert floor, and the Paracas Peninsula and the Ballestas Islands hold extraordinary marine life. There is the Andean highland, Cusco, the valleys, the high plains, the altitude, the Peru of the postcards. And there is the Amazon, which covers more than half the country's landmass and is one of the most biodiverse environments on the planet, accessible from Iquitos in the north or Puerto Maldonado in the south, and almost completely ignored by visitors who came for the mountains and never imagined the jungle was part of the same trip. These three Perus are not variations on a theme. They are radically different in climate, altitude, food, culture, and what there is to do, and the traveler who only ever sees the Andean version has seen perhaps a third of what the country is. You don't need to do all three in one visit. Trying to would be its own rushing mistake, but knowing they exist changes how you plan. A few days in the Amazon, or a proper stretch on the coast around Lima and Paracas, turns a Machu Picchu trip into an actual encounter with Peru. Speaking of Lima, the third Peru deserves a direct offense because it's the city tourists most consistently treat as a disposable transit point. Lima is where almost everyone lands and where almost nobody stays, treated as a necessary connection on the way to Cusco rather than a destination in its own right. This is a real loss because Lima has quietly become one of the great food cities of the world, not as marketing hyperbole, but as a genuine, internationally recognized fact. Peruvian cuisine, built on the collision of indigenous ingredients with Spanish, Japanese, Chinese, and African influences, reaches its peak here, in everything from the ceviche that the coast is better than anywhere on earth to the world-ranked fine dining rooms that draw people across continents to eat in them. The neighborhoods of Barranco and Miraflores, perched on cliffs above the Pacific, are walkable, characterful, and full of life. Giving Lima a single rush night before fleeing to the mountains means skipping one of the most rewarding food experiences available anywhere, all to save a day you'll probably lose to altitude in Cusco anyway. The fourth mistake is about food beyond Lima, and it follows a pattern that should sound familiar by now. Tourists eat the safe, recognizable version and never reach the real thing. Peruvian food is one of the most exciting cuisines in the world, and its range is enormous and deeply regional. The coast is about seafood and ceviche. The highlands are about potatoes. Peru has thousands of varieties and corn and hearty Andean dishes built for cold and altitude. The Amazon has its own ingredients that exist almost nowhere else. And running through all of it is a street food culture of grilled anticuchos, fresh juices, and regional specialties that most tourists walk past on their way to a restaurant with an English menu. The willingness to eat where Peruvians eat. The market stalls, the menu del dia at a neighborhood spot where lunch costs a few dollars, the street cart with the longest local queue, is the difference between tasting Peru and tasting the tourist edit of it. One mistake remains, and it's the one almost nobody identifies as a mistake, because from the outside it looks like simple bad luck, treating the seasons as an afterthought. Peru's geography means timing matters more than in most places, and it cuts differently across the three countries. In the Andes and at Machu Picchu, the dry season, roughly May to September, brings the clear skies and stable conditions ideal for trekking and for seeing the citadel without rain, and correspondingly the largest crowds and highest prices. The wet season, November to March, brings genuine rain to the mountains, and the famous Inca Trail closes entirely every February for maintenance, which catches out people who didn't know to check. But the coast runs almost opposite. Lima's gray, damp overcast season coincides with the Andean dry season, while the coast is sunniest during the Andean rains. And the Amazon is hot and humid year-round, with high and low water seasons that change what's possible rather than whether to go. The mistake is looking up best time to visit Peru, getting one answer, and applying it to a trip that spans regions where that one answer is actively wrong for part of the itinerary. Every one of these mistakes, in the end, traces back to the same route, and it's the same route the altitude exposes on day one. Peru is a country that punishes the rush and rewards the traveler who slows down, and it's almost unique in enforcing that with physical consequences rather than mere disappointment. The person who compresses the trip into a sprint to one ruin gets altitude sickness, sees the citadel in bad light with the crowds, skips the food capital, ignores two-thirds of the country's geography, and comes home with a story about a wonder of the world glimpsed through a headache. The person who treats Peru as three countries that demand time, who lets their body adjust, who gives Lima its due, and the Sacred Valley its hours, and maybe the Amazon a few days, comes home having actually been to Peru. The mountain will still be there when you get to it. That's the thing worth remembering when the instinct to hurry kicks in. Machu Picchu has stood for over 5 centuries and isn't going anywhere in the 4 extra days it takes to arrive at it properly, acclimatized, unhurried, and awake to the fact that the country you crossed to reach it was never just a backdrop to one ruin. It was the whole point, sitting in plain sight, waiting for you to slow down enough to see it. Thanks for watching. If you found this useful, smash that like button and subscribe to When to Travel. We're all about helping you make smarter travel decisions. Turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one. And hey, if you think your friends need this, share it. Comment below with your next destination or your biggest travel question. I'm reading all of them. Let's go.